Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Eccentric Mind podcast with your host, George Hernandez. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I'm very excited to have you, very excited to talk about this topic today. I've been doing 2 weeks of research regarding this specific topic. I even wrote a research paper regarding this whole ordeal that I've pretty much been researching about, talking about, thinking about, which is the perils of social alcohol consumption and what it does to your body and to your brain. I'm just leaving a quick caveat. I'm not trying to judge. I'm not here to rain a parade or rain on your parade at any given moment. All I'm here to do is spread some form of awareness so that way you guys can start making better decisions or any sort of type of judgment that you can have towards alcohol itself. I myself am about to hit 3 years sober from alcohol, and it's been the greatest decision I've ever made in my entire life, and I'm very grateful for my previous self making that type of decision, even though it wasn't popular to make. And I'm utterly grateful for the change and the growth that I've had myself from making that type of decision. And I just continuously strive to make better decisions in the long run that ultimately helps me become the person that I want to be. Now, we'll pretty much get into this topic overall. We're going to start with the overall positive effects, social enhancement, etc. We're going to talk about the feelings that you obtain, what happens to the body and to the brain the moment that you start to accumulate and drink alcohol. And we're going to get into a little bit about the buzz state and what it does to your brain. Okay, so now the advantages and why its benefit is so prevalent to our modern world and that it plays a crucial role in how our culture forms. So firstly, we're going to start off with what is alcohol. Now, rum, a bottle of IPA, glass, wine, gin and tonic, beer, these drinks are synonymous with the term alcohol. However, they're not necessarily alcohol themselves. They contain a type of alcohol called ethanol. And ethanol is one of 3 simple molecules. You have methanol, which is used in antifreeze. You have isopropanol, which is found in rubbing alcohol. And ethanol is the only one that humans can consume on a regular basis. Okay, think of ethanol as the only one that we can consume, the only one we can drink. Ethanol, however, is known as water soluble. Okay, let me see if this thing. Ethanol is known as water soluble. Now, what does that mean? Water soluble means that the moment you drink it, it enters inside of the bloodstream. Now, considering that ethanol is a very small molecule, it's not necessarily something like food that needs to be broken down to get into your bloodstream and into your body. Ethanol is very small and it enters the bloodstream, spreads very quickly, and distributes to your muscles, your organs, and your body, your brain, etc. Which is why people, as soon as they start drinking it 10 to 15 minutes within, whether it's tequila, whether it's vodka, whether it's gin, whether it's beer, they already start to feel the effects because of how fast it's able to distribute to your body and your brain. So that's what water soluble means. It just spreads rapidly, okay, and it distributes very quickly. Now, another caveat that I want to leave, you may already understand this, or if you know me, I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I am just a very, very curious person that has had a lot of beneficial effects happen to me because I stopped drinking alcohol. I've had a lot more benefits in cutting it off, and I noticed that the change in myself is something that I would love to spread some form of awareness because I feel this compelling sort of obligation in a sense to help other people as well. And even if you do not decide to stop drinking alcohol, which I'm not here to tell you to stop drinking alcohol. I'm pretty much just providing you a perspective and some form of awareness so that you can take home with you. So that way you have better judgment. You are able to make a much more sound decision before you drink alcohol. And you also have the awareness of what it does to you rather as opposed, figuring out what happens to you or getting some form of diet or a change happening because you weren't aware of the circumstances or the things or the toxin that you're giving to your body in drinking alcohol. I just want to give you some form of awareness. That's it. That's all I'm here to do. I'm not here to change your wine evening. I'm not here to change your weekly beer run. I'm not here to do any of that. I'm just here to provide perspective. I'm here to provide awareness. Now, if you'll listen to me objectively as opposed to being emotional, that's what we're here for, and that's what I'm here to do. However, if you're here being emotional and you're here to judge me and attack me in any form of way, get the fuck off the podcast. Okay, I don't want you here. All right? And I say that with all the love and all the peace that I have in my heart. Get the fuck off my podcast. All right? Go listen to something else. Now, the common belief. Now that you already understand what alcohol is, Here is the common belief. Why do people see alcohol as harmless, celebratory, or socially essential? Humans and alcohol share a deep evolutionary history, with alcohol dating back thousands of years. So alcohol is very synonymous, meaning it's habitual. It's something that we relatively share, we see, we do, we combine with so often, so frequently with social bonding. Okay, it's a part of our ritual. It's a part of our group interactions. On a day-to-day basis, you tend to go to a bar to hang out with your buddies because, well, that's the time you guys alleviate, or you guys, let go of some stress, or you guys socially interact and reinforce the relationship. So, in this sort of term, in this sort of perspective, we can kind of resonate with this, right? So, I myself think back of all the moments you've had, your peak moments of life. You've likely had alcohol in your vicinity because our culture places such a large highlight on the sexiness and the bourgeois of the enhancement of alcohol, right? I can personally think back of all the big moments with my fam. There was always alcohol involved, and for good reason, because one, it's easier to speak to other individuals once you consume alcohol and have conversation under the influence. You're lighter, you're more able to be courageous, you're able to be much more empathetic or emotional and say the things that you wouldn't have otherwise said if you were sober, right? You're more engaged and you have more courage, etc., etc., etc. And there's a source from Wired which suggests, I did a lot of research about this, so I'm going to leave the resources at the bottom. I also did a research paper, so you guys can go ahead and read that once you're done. So source from Wired which suggests being buzzed and tipsy activates GABA, which is the brain's neurotransmitter, meaning it is a chemical messenger in your nervous system, pretty much how brain cells talk to one another. So this gives you that less anxious, more relaxed and sociable feel, which is why when people say, hey, just have a drink so you can, get rid of the edge, to take the edge off, because it literally means when you drink alcohol, that's exactly what's happening inside of your brain. It literally takes the edge off. So studies show that drinking moderate amounts of alcohol in a group setting boosts mood, emotions, and enhances overall bonding with one another. I also did some research on a specific study that they have where they gathered 37 healthy adults, 17 men and women aged between 21 and 35, and before the conversations and the participants consume beverages containing either alcohol or a placebo being a fake, making it seem as though, which is shown to alter behavior if one believes they are consuming. So they gathered these individuals, 37 total, 17 adults, men, 20 women. They were within the requirements where they were good. They had a high school education, at least. They were within the healthy bodily range of BMI, mass index, and then lifestyle and fluency in English. So they were able to collaborate. They were able to speak to each other. So they got them into a specific room, and 30 minutes prior to that, they were either given a placebo, which is a fake, but they also provided a little bit of alcohol inside of it, so that way it can taste as if it was alcohol, and there was no difference. Whereas the other person got alcohol themselves. And then 30 minutes they drank those, and then afterwards they combined and united. After they consumed their drinks, participants waited 30 minutes before they engaged in their rooms. During and after conversations, researchers measured various psychological and physiological responses, such as using a machine learning facial expression analysis tool to assess emotional expressions throughout the conversation. So this was pretty much allowing them to track changes in emotional responses, but also their overall subjective experience, and to track the changes in their emotional intensity in real time. So, I had read another study that in 2012, they were monitoring real smiles. So like the overall curvature of the smile and how it like naturally went up. But at the same time, they were watching and looking out for golden moments. So I guess this is kind of a piggyback of what they did. I don't know necessarily. I really don't know how to count and measure or track all these studies, but this one was pretty interesting just because they're literally using a tool to track the changes in emotional intensity in real time. And pretty much what I'm going about with this particular subject and what I'm going through here is we're really finding out the cookies and the crumbs or the meat and potatoes with how alcohol is beneficial for social bonding. Okay, this is the big sort of argument or the objective standpoint that a lot of people come from is that how much it helps people interact and engage and speak to one another. So this is pretty much the study proclaiming or reinforcing or backing up the argument of alcohol being a pro as opposed to a con. So the results after them drinking, having the conversation in real time, tracking their changes in emotional intensity, participants, after they completed the conversations with one another, completed self-report questionnaires assessing their subjective experience, including did they like the effects of the drink and how they connected to their partner they talked to. The results, very interesting. The results showed that participants who received alcohol reported feeling drug effects and liking the drug effects more than those who received the placebo. So obviously the people who were drinking and having this interaction with one another had more subjective, richer experience as opposed to the person who was drinking the placebo, the fake. People reported liking the effects of alcohol more when their conversation partner also received alcohol. So when you had two people who were also drinking alcohol, they were more likely to have a much better overall experience because the other person was also drinking alcohol, as opposed to me drinking alcohol and you drinking the placebo. Also, alcohol also increased feelings of anger and confusion, but did not affect anxiety, depression, or fatigue. Alcohol made participants feel both more stimulated and more sedated. Most participants were able to correctly guess whether they received alcohol or placebo, which is a very quick and simple way of saying that alcohol increases social engagement. So we have a tracked human evolution without alcohol. This dates back to like 15,000 years, right? And we see that alcohol boosts our mood and our ability with social bonding, and research suggests that alcohol provides an enhanced quality of life while drinking alcohol. Wired even suggested that moderate drinkers often live longer due to social connection, right? So not because of alcohol itself, but those that are abstinent from alcohol tend to live less years than those who moderately drink. So what gives? Why is alcohol deemed this negative? Why is it deemed so negative? If there's so many components as to how it provides a better quality of life, what could possibly be going on, right? This is all the assumption. This is all what we ourselves think. Well, how could it be so bad if it provides me and makes me feel closer to my parents? I want to say nice things to them. I want to, provide for them once I'm under the substance. For most, I'm going to assume in your family, at least in mine, it was our way of decompressing, right? Having fun in the times in which we built very strong memories with the ones we love. That was the core of why we did it and what we did. It was socially acceptable. Now, that's another thing is like we used to have it on shelves, we used to have it in the counter, we used to have it in the box, we used to have it in dad's closet or, things of that nature, right? It just depends on like culture and what you grew up from and what you saw your parents doing as to why we follow through on these aspects ourselves. So, one second, I'm going to take a sip of water. This is fun. Now, once again, I'm just a very curious dude. I am not a doctor, a health practitioner. I'm just some guy who stopped drinking alcohol, and I've seen a lot of good benefits of it, and if I could provide some form of awareness for somebody else, I want to do it all fucking day. So, the benefits of alcohol consumption. And if you look at them, we have three points which consist of acute psychological effects. Acute meaning short-term. You have a reduced social anxiety because the alcohol dampens the amygdala. Now, if you've seen the previous podcast episode, which I could leave somewhere in the vicinity around here, the amygdala is your brain's security system. So it pretty much scans for potential threats. But when you drink alcohol, it reduces that. It's not as heightened. So that's why you feel more relaxed. You feel less on edge and you're less anxious as a result. Right? This could be good because if you want to go speak to the pretty girl, well, you're capable of doing that because you're not having this inner monologue that's telling you not to, or this inner monologue that's just based on fear and scarcity. So alcohol, what it does when you consume it, alcohol binds to the GABA receptors, causing you to feel less anxious. That's dampened, which reduces fear and self-monitoring. GABA, let me go down all the way over here because I forget the actual name of GABA. It's like this big name. Which is... Hello? Okay. Where are you at? GABA being gamma aminobutyric acid, known as GABA. That's what it is. So it binds to the GABA receptors, causing you to feel less anxious. That's dampen, which reduces fear and self-monitoring. Okay, so alcohol binds to the system in your brain, which is why alcohol is seen as liquid courage. So yeah, pretty much what I just said. That's funny. So social bonding. And as you guys can mention, there was also another study that I was kind of talking about beforehand that was done in 2012 where they gathered 720 strangers grouped in threes, and those who consumed the alcohol displayed more true smiles in a 36-minute time span, which alcohol enhanced the likelihood of gold moments. And then more genuine smiles, alcohol stimulates the endorphin system, the same system activated by laughter, singing, and dancing. Not only that, the third is short-term stress reduction. Low to moderate doses can temporarily reduce cortisol and subjective stress. However, it's also shown in studies that if the alcohol is a frequent usage, that it's only going to heighten the source of cortisol after a long period of time if you just do it recurringly. So that's also just one that's kind of been like, So these are the only positives of alcohol, and which I was able to find, and which I kind of thought of. And yeah, pretty much what I was able to extract from all of the research that I've done. So we know what alcohol is. We understand how it's important to our culture and the positive effects of it. Now it's time to get into the more objective side of alcohol. So strap up for this one. We're going to get into the negatives, what it's doing to your body, and what it's doing to your brain. So I call this one the contrarian belief. So first, what happens to the body when we consume alcohol? So I'm going to come from this perspective at a more resonant sort of area. I know most of the people that are watching tend to either don't drink alcohol or they aren't interested in drinking alcohol. They consume alcohol maybe a couple times out of the week. When they do drink alcohol, they get buzzed and very close to drunk, or they're the type of person that maybe drinks 1 to 2 socially, okay? This is kind of the range in which I'm hoping I'm getting the right area and the right demographic, right? So this is to those people that drink alcohol. They may or may not understand what's actually happening, but this is just a overall estimate, a overall overview of what's actually going on. And I want you to have this awareness so that way you can make better sound decisions. And maybe you could either cut off on it, or you can stay, or you find yourself in a good position. So I'm pretty much going to go into people that have sips of alcohol and people that get buzzed. So assuming we're drinking socially, understand that the moment you consume alcohol / ethanol, since it's water soluble, meaning that it flows into your system, goes to your body, brain, organs, quickly making you feel its effects even with one drink. It goes directly to your liver. Now, your liver is your detox organ, meaning it filters, dissolves, rids anything inside at which it cannot store, or keeps what it can. So, if you eat food, for example, you create amino acids, you create glycogen because your body processes carbs and it stores fats and proteins. Right? However, your body cannot store alcohol. It's not a providing growth or repair to the body, so your kidney must secrete the liquid as if it's a threat to your body. So you consume alcohol, immediately your kidney is working to remove it, metabolize it, and eliminate it from your body, because alcohol is known as a toxin and must be burned off or eliminated the moment you sip. This is also a very interesting thing when it comes to, I'm going to get ahead of myself a little bit, but it's the brain. This is so fucking interesting. But when you consume alcohol, you get a heightened sense of GABA, which we already talked about, is the reduction of fear and anxiety in your head. That wasn't supposed to turn on. You get a heightened sense of GABA, but your brain and your head may feel very relaxed and chill and relaxed and, I'm good, I'm fine. But your body is literally in a state of fight or flight, because the moment it detects alcohol going in, your liver, your kidneys are all working itself so that way it can get rid of this source of alcohol that you just consumed. So throughout this filtration digestive process, another compound molecule in the form of acetaldehyde comes in. So you drink alcohol, small molecule, ethanol. It goes through your systems because it's a water soluble. It goes into your organs, it goes into your kidneys, it goes into your mind, etc., right? So throughout this process, it goes and shoots its way over to your liver. Your liver cannot store alcohol. So what it does is it gets ethanol and it turns it into a compound called acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde, which so this is the beautiful thing about the body is that, okay, it understands it cannot store alcohol, this ethanol inside of your body, which is alcohol. And it says, okay, we need to get rid of this. So we're going to create another compound. We're going to break this down into acetaldehyde, which is unfortunately a very, very strong chemical that is very negative to have inside of your body. I don't know if people who listen to this ever played Modern Warfare, but Modern Warfare 2 in 2008, there was this thing you can call a perk called Martyrdom, right? As soon as somebody died, they dropped the grenade in hopes to kill somebody else on the other side, the person that killed them. Okay? And this is essentially what happens with your liver trying to protect you. It unfortunately gets ethanol, breaks it down into acetaldehyde, but literally what it's doing is like it's taking out that grenade. The grenade comes out as a result because the negatives of the acetaldehyde is it's carcinogenic, meaning it's cancer causing, classified as a group 1 carcinogen. Binds to your DNA, forming adducts and mutations, and it raises the risk of cancers such as mouth cancer, throat cancer, esophagus cancer, liver cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer. And not only that, but it also has protein and enzyme damage. Acetaldehyde attaches to your proteins, distorting their shape. This disrupts normal enzyme activity and cellular repair processes. And also, this goes for fucking days, okay? So sorry for my French. But I don't know, but this is important. Like, you guys should know this, Not necessarily in a sense that you should all do research papers like me, but, they don't discuss this about what happens. All you see on the front news is the sexy, Dos Equis commercial, and you want to be just like that guy because we're all emotional creatures. We're not logical. We're emotional creatures that psychologically we want to fulfill the expectations that others have of us. Or not only that, but we want to bestow our importance onto everybody else. So of course we're going to go drink the Dos Equis if we seem to be as cool as that guy, right? But you don't fucking understand what's actually going on inside of your body once you consume it. You don't understand the potential negatives that can be a downfall to you because you're trying to look cool, or you're trying to fit in, or you're trying to conform. That's the issue. And that's what I'm trying to get in. All right? That's the nerve I'm trying to stick into. Okay? Man, it's just crazy. It's crazy. I don't want to get too deep into that, but oxidative stress and inflammation generates reactive oxygen species. Oxidative stress triggers chronic inflammation, accelerates aging, tissue breakdown, and disease risk. Hangover symptoms. The poison feeling after drinking is mostly acetaldehyde buildup, which causes nausea, vomiting, headaches, sweating, racing heart, flushing. Long-term acetaldehyde exposure creates fatty liver and hepatitis and cirrhosis. The scar tissue builds up into the liver until it fails. Brain damage. Damages neurons by disrupting neurotransmitters, linked to memory loss and cognitive decline, dementia risk, impairs the blood-brain barrier. Alters immune cell signaling, makes the body more vulnerable to infections. Like, there's so many negatives when consuming alcohol. And not only that, this is just acetaldehyde. This is the issues from which your liver, trying to protect you, trying to serve you, trying to heal you, trying to protect you, it creates this other compound molecule, which is acetaldehyde, which is so much more toxic to have inside of your liver. After this, acetaldehyde becomes acetate, which is far less riskier, but I digress. So, alcohol, in and of itself, is not a nutrient that is essential. It adds nothing to the body aside from calories. And I'm just stating the facts here. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just being as objective as I can to provide as much information and awareness that I possibly can, and possibly another perspective. Alcohol is also heavily known as a depressant, meaning it's a substance that slows the transmission of nerve impulses. Now, what that means, if you were to define, slows the transmission of nerve impulses. That's kind of a long sentence. It pretty much means that the more you drink alcohol, the more it inhibits. So inhibits is defined as restrain, prevent other parts of your brain. So literally what's going on with your brain, it's like your brain has certain regions. So if you are sober, all of those regions are lit up, okay? It's like lit up like a carnival. But then as soon as you start drinking alcohol, well, now the Ferris wheel isn't working anymore. And now you only have 3/4 of the carnival. But then the more you start drinking more alcohol, what is it called? The teacups stop spinning. So now you only have about 2/4 of your brain that you can use. And then the more you keep drinking, well, now there's no more snacks in the carnival. So now you're only working with 1/4 of all the things that you have. So that really hampers and damages and really hinders your ability to process, your ability to communicate, your ability to be in control of your actions and your behaviors and make sound decisions, etc., etc. So that's literally what that sentence means. It's substance that slows the transmission of nerve impulses, such as slowing your reaction to time to stimuli, like a car coming towards you on the road. It confuses your thoughts and impairs your judgment, to which you're able to make irrational decisions you wouldn't have made if you abstained from alcohol. So the more you drink, the more your brain is affected as a result. Yeah. This is also probably that's like it. That's even just talking about it, it's just crazy. It's just crazy, man. Now, that's the body, right? I did just speak a little bit about, that it slows the transmission of nerve impulses. There's this very interesting thing. So when you're sober, we're going to go into the brain a little bit now. So when you're sober, you have sober brain, meaning glutamate is present all the time in your brain, and GABA is present all the time. GABA meaning gamma aminobutyric acid already exists in your brain. Glutamate equals go, 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 right? That's the signal, that's the receptor. That's normally what's going on in your brain is glutamate. I can't remember if it's a neuromodulator or a neurotransmitter, or I think it's a hormone. But when you drink, so you have a balance of two things. You have GABA and you have glutamate. Glutamate is the sensory signal that is getting you to go, go, and go. Whereas GABA is telling you to chill, chill, chill. That's what I've gotten from it. When you drink, it blocks glutamate. So you're less of a go, go, go type. You're more of a chill, chill, chill type because it heightens GABA. So it makes GABA receptors more sensitive, so the braking effect is stronger, making you less focused and in control. Which, when it comes to our brain, we want to be in control all the time, because that's how we start making false choices. We start having less sound judgment. We're not in control. We're, within a vicinity or a crowd of people, and we don't really know where we're at. That's not necessarily something that's safe or something that's beneficial to us. It's actually potentially going to harm us if we're not in the safe environment. Okay, but in consuming alcohol, you ruin 3 very important factors of your brain. I've been talking a lot about the prefrontal cortex in the most recent podcast episode, which is, the prefrontal cortex is the CEO part of your brain, making you make sound decisions, decision-making, judgment. But once you start consuming alcohol, your impulsivity drops. It becomes slower. You start making bad choices. You're not as in control. The next, it's the amygdala, right? The amygdala is also effective. Very, very similar to what I just talked about with the carnival example. Like, your brain starts to dampen. It's not as strong. It's not as in control as it would be had you been sober. So the hippocampus, which is first we'll talk about the amygdala, which is the fear and anxiety response, right? It's essential to feel fear and anxiety from time to time because your amygdala is literally your security system. We're going to have my camera cut out. So I'm going to cut this. Boom. Okay. Now we can continue. The amygdala is your security system. So once that's dampened, you feel less anxious and more liquid courage. Sure, you may be able to be socially available, may be able to go up and speak to the girl, but when shit hits the fan, you're not scanning those threats, okay? and then hippocampus, right? So the hippocampus is also suppressed, meaning the hippocampus is very crucial to memory formation. So that's why most of the people that drink from one sip to buzzed to drunk to very drunk, that's why a lot of those people towards that latter half tend to forget the memories as to what happened the night prior. It's because your hippocampus wasn't activated. So that's the body and the brain. That's all of that. Okay. Now we're going to get into, this is going to be the longest podcast we've had so far. Well, at least by myself. Typically they're like half an hour. So the clash. So for evidence from each side, you have a strong support of research suggesting that it's beneficial to emotional engagement and group harmony, such as being buzzed and tipsy activates GABA, like I mentioned, pretty much how brain cells talk to each other. This gives you that less anxious, more relaxed, and sociable feel. You have millions of people providing testimonials that it provides them more than it does harm, because it gives them a space where they can be themselves and actually not stress or worry about the world and be in the present moment. However, the same article that is telling you that it makes you feel more relaxed and sociable also suggests that not to get carried away, because while the moderate consumption of alcohol might reduce the stress response, blood alcohol levels above 1%, most states consider 0.8 the legal limit for driving, trigger a large release of stress hormones. Although you might feel drunkenly relaxed, your body is convinced it's in a state of mortal danger. Yeah, that was the big thing. So even with just one sip of alcohol or even one drink, I could be wrong. I don't know for sure. But as soon as, so as soon as you hit the 0.1 percentile, that's when your body is in a state of mortal danger. Okay? That's when your body's working itself so that way it can secrete all of the liquid, all of the molecules inside of its body. Once you have reached the 1 to 2 drink threshold, your body reacts and your stress system begins to kick in. So large amounts of cortisol and adrenaline are released in your body. So in simple terms, while you may feel relaxed and more sociable and more engaged with the people around you, your body is actively in a state of fight or flight under the hood. And there's this analogy that I wrote. It's like being in a burning house with noise-canceling headphones. You may feel relaxed by the song that you're listening to, and you may feel as though nothing is wrong, but literally the house is on fire. And as most studies would suggest, there is no safe dose of alcohol. It's risky from the first drink, and the more you drink, the higher the risk jumps. And yeah, the following up with more of the overall negative effects of alcohol, which consist of liver disease, including cirrhosis, and life-threatening liver failure requiring a liver transplant, a higher risk of high blood pressure, heart failure, and dementia, an increased risk of cancer, a higher risk of injury, especially from drunk driving and falls. Homicides and suicides are also often alcohol-related. Lapses in judgment, for example, people who are drunk may engage in risky sexual behavior or any other drugs. An increased risk of depression, anxiety, and addiction. These problems may impact one's ability to establish and maintain social relationships and employment. Fetal alcohol syndrome. Alcohol can damage a baby's developing brain and cause other developmental abnormalities. Alcohol poisoning. Many people don't realize that if you drink enough alcohol over a short period of time, it can be fatal. And in 2014, the World Health Organization report, found that harmful alcohol consumption caused about 3.3 million deaths annually worldwide. And in 2023, they suggested there is no safe level of alcohol consumption that does not affect health. Man, that's a lot. That's a lot, man. That's a lot to take in. So if you're still into this, I appreciate you for listening. This isn't the end of it. I'm just it's a lot to sit with. Obviously, our culture, it just depends, right? My culture specifically was all focused on alcohol. Not necessarily in the sense of like addiction, but I can remember vividly like older brother having functions, and he was only 18 years old or 19 years old, and I was just there just chilling with all the other guys because, well, I wanted to be around the other guys. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be like my older brother, and he was my hero. He was my role model. And watching them drink alcohol made me want to drink alcohol, And yeah, it's just crazy how true it is. We aspire to be what we look up to, and especially when we're young, especially when it's something that our environment ties itself to, we want to follow suit as well because we're naturally conforming creatures. We're much more emotional as opposed to being logical and analytical. Not only that, but we're also heavily embedded a longing and a yearning to fit into a community that is ours. And the worst thing that could have happened in the, what is it called? The Paleolithic era, which is the BC era, the caveman era, the worst thing that could possibly happen to you was not to was not to eat a poisonous berry, was not to get mauled by a bear, was not to have a baby, was not any of those things, or to have another tribe come and attack you. The worst thing that could have happened to you was to get banished by your community. Community is so fucking important, and if you're young, and if it's not all that you see, you will follow suit with it. If it's just like that example of, there's 5 moldy fruit in a basket, and you throw one very, very perfectly good fruit in there, it's also going to get moldy too, right? It's just how it goes. So when we see the positives of alcohol, this is pretty much the whole lot of it. When we see the positives of alcohol, all these benefits are pretty much short term, right? We want more of an enhancement of life or social engagement or social bonding with those that we care about. And so that's the reason as to why we consume alcohol, because of the positive effects in which alcohol allows us to feel in the moment. I want to bridge this gap by bringing it back to the beginning. When we see the positives of alcohol, can you see the similarities between these? All the benefits are short term, whereas the costs are all long term. Okay, so what I see is that alcohol is this enhanced state of mind, energy, or range of emotions that is unfortunately baked into the existence and is synonymous with a good, fun time. However, just looking at the impairments of the brain and the body, there are other ways you can have fun without harming yourself. I talk specifically about the social anxiety and the inability to go and talk to people and be social. That was where I struggled. I didn't have the social skills to go up and talk to a girl. I didn't have the social skills to go and greet somebody and tell them, hey, this is going on, blah, 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 and have an actual genuine conversation with them. So I drank alcohol because it made things easier. And that's where I was specifically. I had that liquid courage. I remember just being able to be who I wanted to be only when I was drinking alcohol. That was the only fucking time. And throughout my time being away from alcohol, just about to hit 3 years. Granted, I did have the tiniest sip of tequila because it was in a beautiful, very expensive bottle. And it just killed my gut right after that. I noticed that I'm already that fucking confident guy. I don't need alcohol to get that guy out. Not only that, but it's just this confidence that I have because I don't need an enhancer or a boost or a sip of a beverage in order to feel more of, right? I can just be me at any given time. And it's also interesting that I used to think that I was more like myself when I was drinking alcohol, that I was more courageous and that I was more charismatic and more confident and less anxious. And I always thought I'm more like myself. I'm more like the person that I want to be, even though, isn't that funny that I believed that I was more like George, even though I was literally altering the state of mind and inhibiting my brain and body. And that made me feel more like George. No. You see, you're less like yourself when you drink alcohol. You are less like yourself because your brain and your body confirms it's true. Your brain regions are dying. They turn off, your prefrontal cortex isn't there. Sure, you feel less anxious and less fearful, but you're also just harming your body and you're harming your mind. It's just, what I'm trying to do here is the cost of your body and your brain for a social boost is not the ROI that you pay. That is not a good rate of investment because so many people tend to give up or have 4 hours of a day, of a night, one that they don't remember, one where they weren't able to speak to one another, and that's their fun. And after that, 2 days are gone because of a hangover, and then they just repeat that cycle the next week. I don't know, it's just crazy. And I don't know, I want you to understand that there's so much more out there in terms of what you can do for fun. And I don't want you to harm your body or get potential negative circumstances or carcinogenic possibilities, cancer possibilities, liver failure, heart failure, getting obese, getting overweight, all because you want a little bit of fun and it's something that you depend on so that way you can be more like yourself even though you're being less like yourself. There's so many more things that you can do on a regular basis. Hell, I don't even like saying this, but there's other drugs that you can take. You can take psilocybin, right? Like if you really want a good time, no, that's not good advice. Do not listen to what I just said. But it's just crazy, man. Like your brain is literally altered and inhibited. How can you be like yourself if you don't have sufficient facilities and resources inside of your head and your body to be able to produce you? One of my growing beliefs is that you are already suitable to be confident, charismatic, open, genuine, strong, masculine, all these things that people see as sexy, but it's a skill that you have to improve upon. It's not something that you drink just to be that way. Yes, it works in that manner to which more GABA is heightened so that way you feel less anxious and you're able to do it. But you don't need that you don't need that stimulant, you don't need that alcohol to be that way. It's just something that you build upon. And I just keep coming to this, is that your brain is literally altered. You're not being yourself. Yeah, you're able to be more of who you want to be, but that core, what alcohol is doing is that it's opening up and making you aware of who already exists inside of you. You don't need the fucking alcohol to do that. Like, you already are the core. You already are, what is it called? Source. You're the source. You're already able to be that person, and you can work upon that while sober. Not only that, but you're able to foster and create more genuine, real, authentic conversations and real relationships, as opposed to having drinking buddies that you depend on each weekend so that way you guys can go and get fucked up. It's just crazy to me. It's crazy to me, and I just want you to be reflective throughout this process and the things that I'm saying. I'm not trying to judge you. I'm just trying to provide you another perspective, because so many people are dying from alcohol usage and substance abuse. And it's so unfortunate, and it sucks. But we have a society that normalizes social anxiety as a crutch and a refusal to improve or refine their social skills. And instead of us improving upon them, we depend on an outside source, alcohol, that literally poisons us, alters our brain, that can allow us to be more engaged and have a richer felt experience. But in this, you depend on that liquid to have courage to enact in the first place, though you don't understand you literally already have it within you. You were born to interact. You were born to engage. You don't have to put yourself into a crutch. You don't have to put yourself into a cast in order to be who you want to be. You could already, starting right fucking now, without the liquid, be who you want to be. It just takes so much time, and people want to neglect the work. Just be very reflective. Be very reflective about this podcast, and if you listen to it all the way, I just hope that you got something out of it. And yeah, man, it's 2 weeks. It's taken me 2 weeks to make this podcast episode. And I hope I did a good job. I hope that you guys genuinely enjoyed this one. I understand that I was a little rough around the edges and kind of cussing in here and there, but it's because I just care. Okay? I think all that I'm trying to do is just provide a little bit of awareness so that way somebody else can have a genuinely better life and hopefully get somebody out of the rut that they're in, because I just care. I care because I was once in that position myself. I was once the kid that only drank alcohol so that way he could have a little bit more courage, so that way he can be more resilient or be able to talk to the cute girl or be able to have the conversation or be able to say the hard things that were on his mind but he couldn't say while he was sober. I was that kid, and I understand what it's like to think that you need to depend on the beverage in order to be who you want to be. But throughout my last 4 years of self-development and self-refining and improving and reading and writing and business building and brand building and talking in front of a camera has pointed to me that I was already source. I was already capable of being courageous and confident and charismatic. It just took a little bit more work. And instead of having something that to depend on like alcohol, I could just refine myself and make myself into a better individual while sober. And it's so much more rewarding and fulfilling knowing that you have an easy way out, but you take the long way out. You take the boring, unsexy, unsatisfying, sometimes unfulfilling process, and you deposit these days and these weeks and these months, hoping that a change can be made, hoping that you can be the type of character that you want to be, until one day you're staring in front of a camera and you're speaking about the changes that you've made in yourself and the changes that you've seen in yourself. And all you hope for is to help somebody else that was in your shoes too. Because I was once in those shoes, and now I like to think I'm in a better position now to be able to help somebody identify these sort of situations or these predicaments that they find themselves in. And I hope one day just to get you out of that. So, this has been the Eccentric Mind Podcast with George Hernandez. I appreciate you very fucking much. Even though I'm not talking to anybody right now, I'm talking into the lens of a camera. If you're listening to this, I fucking love you. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day.